The very, very wealthiest in this country make their income not from the sweat of their brows, not by getting up and punching a clock every day, but by collecting capital gains, interest, and dividend. And if you look at the top 1% of the 1% in this country, at that point, the tax code ceases to be progressive in a way I think that violates a basic sense of fairness that most Americans have.
Women supporting families on their own and households of color are underrepresented among households with higher incomes and overrepresented among those with lower incomes. Combined with historical disparities in housing, employment, access to high-quality affordable childcare, and more, the inequitable distribution of tax benefits amplifies and reinforces gender and racial inequities.
By ignoring race and class during tax policy discussions, we are working to maintain the status quo of economic inequality, where the richest among us pay the least.
Congress should consider reforms that reduce taxes, strengthen the connection to employment for low-income families, reduce marriage penalties, and are simple and straightforward to implement.
We know that the current system of income tax really doesn't work well. It does leave out people like Jeff Bezos. But if we had a fair tax, a system that instead of taxing income, taxed consumption, but allowed for basic needs to be excluded from taxation, things that the lowest income people pay disproportionately high percentage of their income in, it would work more fairly and it would be incredibly more progressive.
Recent tax changes, and in particular the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017, have disproportionately benefited people with high incomes.
There's an enormous amount of ideology here and very little evidence that these capital income tax cuts are generating the growth that people want them to.
When the top 1% of income earners are paying 40% of the taxes in this country, is that fair to the top 1%? Should they pay more?
I think this is the point to my friend from Texas. You have to look at not just what people pay in taxes, but you also have to look at what they earn, and it is unsustainable for working class people to continue picking up the tab for tax breaks that the wealthy enjoy. Nationally, the 25 richest billionaires have paid 98 times less in federal income taxes than the average taxpayer, despite holding 14.3 million times their wealth.
If the revenues from these tax changes were used to fund new support and new opportunities for disadvantaged people, the result would be a significant and lasting reduction in economic disparities and actually a boost in the size of the economy, not a reduction.
The income that we give up on the capital gains associated with the top 1% of the economic distribution in this country would fully pay for a year of child tax credit. So that's a choice. We could either give money to the child tax credit, which has been shown to be one of the most powerful alleviators of poverty, which I think is germane to what this committee's mission, or we can continue to give preferential capital gains rate to the top 1% of this population without an obvious economic rationale.
I think we have a real opportunity, Mr. Chairman, in particular in a nonpartisan way, to really explore how the earned income tax credit and the child tax credit can be connected. And I believe there needs to be a connection in particular to work.
Fortunately, the House has passed legislation that will address many of these issues in the budget reconciliation bill, and it has a golden opportunity to make the tax code more fair, and in so doing, foster inclusive economic growth.
We should not be satisfied by a return to an inequitable status quo when women, especially women of color, are lagging behind in the recovery and continue to experience material hardship. Congress should take the opportunity to unlock the potential of the tax code to advance economic, gender, and racial equity.